Hey guys, so today I'm going to take you through how to do a quick CMA in Matrix. There are several versions of a CMA, or comparative market analysis. So these are the comps. And this is the version that's just kind of a one-pager. It does give you lots of statistical information and arguably all the information you'd need to know to make a decision, but it just doesn't look as pretty. So if you are presenting to a seller, you might consider doing another version that looks better. But I want to make this point as well, is that if you are representing buyers, it's also important to do this exercise. And why is that? Well, if you're representing a buyer and they find a home they like and they want to put in an offer, how would you know if it's priced correctly? All right, so you need to do right by your client and ensure that the home is not overpriced. And the only way to do that is to look at what has sold in and around that area recently. Okay, so let's get started. So if you go to search, go to residential, go to detailed. And you're going to go to detailed because you want to have available all of the things that you could either add or take away from to get the right amount of comps that you want. Okay, so my screen defaults to all these active statuses. I'm going to take off active contingent, active kickout, active option contract, and I am going to want to see expireds and solds. Okay, so let's be clear. The only section of homes that we're going to look at that we can really take action on are the sold homes. Why is that? Because that is truly a reflection of what the market will pay for a home. The actives are only those homes that are priced at a price point that the customer wants to get. Okay, that it hasn't turned into a sold home, which is what actually someone will pay. So I like to do the map search first. So location, location, location is the ultimate expression for real estate, and it is never more important in this exercise. So you want to get true comparables to the home that you're working with. So the first thing to do is to understand the configuration of the subject property. So what are you comparing it to? And I happen to have one handy, so I'm going to do within, let's say, half a mile of a certain address. Now when you start typing the address, it should start to look for it. It might be thinking here, there it is. And so here it is, 2310 Clear Haven. Okay, so just based on what I put in here, just location, nothing to do with configuration, you have 8 matches. Okay, so those aren't necessarily true comps just yet. Now remember, we are not going to put in price. That's what we want to find out. We don't want to know what homes were priced at a certain price point. That's the variable we're trying to solve for. Okay, so in this particular home at 2310 Clear Haven, I know that it is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, and so I'm going to want to see all the homes that have at least 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So in the bedroom box, I'm going to put 3 and then plus, so that means 3 or more. And if you ever are at a loss of how to put in what you put in here, hover over the question mark on any one of these fields and it will tell you. Okay, so if you hover over bedrooms, it'll tell you what to put in, but then it'll give you examples of that. So many times I've seen agents put in too much or too little, and they wonder why the results are what they are. Typically, they'll put in too much or some kind of symbol that isn't accepted, and the results end up being 0 down here. Okay, so let's do the same for baths. So it's 2 plus, right? So that means I want to see configurations that are 2 full baths or more, or could include a half bath. It doesn't matter. All right, so total square footage of this home is 1635. Now you can't see that here, but that's what I have on my printout. So I'm going to put in, let's show me the homes anywhere between 1,500 square feet and 1,800 square feet. Okay, so you see my matches go down to 2. Okay, The acreage is just in a typical subdivision, so I'm not going to worry about that. It's on 0.169 of an acre. It is in a typical lot and block, very traditional subdivision, so acreage is not going to matter here. But year built will, and so this particular home was built in 1981, so I'm going to put in a range of probably 1980 to 1985. Okay, so that takes my comps down to 1. Okay, that's not really a comp. All right, but let's continue on. All right, if you scroll down, there are other things you can put in here. Because my results aren't showing a whole lot, I'm not going to fill these in, but let's just talk about these real quick. So you could put in number of stories. So just as a rule of thumb, 2 stories typically go for less than 1 stories. Why is that? Because a 1 story has a larger footprint. What does that mean? Well, think of a 2-story home. If it's collectively 3,000 square feet, then arguably the downstairs is going to be 1,500 square feet and the upstairs is going to be 1,500 square feet. Okay? Just for simple examples. In a 1-story home that's 3,000 square feet, all of that is going to be on 1 floor. So it's going to be a larger footprint. That is, believe it or not, more desirable than trekking up a flight of stairs to go up to a 2nd story. Now, you know, for families that want, you know, their kids' bedrooms upstairs, master bedroom downstairs, you know, obviously there's plenty of people buying 2-story homes. I'm not suggesting there aren't. I'm just saying that a 1-story is going to command a higher price than a 2-story nearly all of the time. Okay? If you wanted to, you could put in a number of garage spaces. It's not really relevant here. Fireplaces, not really a big deal in Texas. They don't really, you know, add or detract value. It's just dependent upon what the customer is looking for. Pool, arguable. You know, I wouldn't check that just yet, especially given that the comps are so low. So let's go back. So what do you do if the comps are only, you know, offer up 1? Well, you can do a couple of things. You can go out further. Okay, let's go out 3 miles. Okay, well now you have 9, but you're going to get into different neighborhoods. And if the neighborhood next door are newer homes, then that's going to be a problem. Remember, this home was built in 1981. And so you want to minimize the risk of that happening. So the better thing to do is, let's go back to 0.5. Let's go out, let's do these solds back a year. Let's go back a year. Okay, so now we're up to 10. Okay, so it is better to go back in time versus going out in radius. Okay, so let's go ahead and click results. And it is much better to have more solds than you have actives. And so in this case, that fits the bill. Okay, the active that we have happens to be the subject property. So this seller is actually in a very good situation in that he is the only one in the neighborhood that whose home is up for sale. Now, this is the subject property, and it is in the Spring Ridge edition. So what do we see on all these solds? They're in the exact same edition, except for this one, it's in Britannia Gardens. This one is also in Britannia Gardens. Okay, so if you worked this area a lot, you might know exactly which comps to pick and choose. Okay, but let's say you don't. You can either, as I said, you know, maybe choose this one because that's the subject property, choose this one, choose this one, choose this one, and click QuickCMA, or you could, whoops, didn't mean to do that, or you could go back and let's just click this top box here and it will check every home in this array. Okay, so now we could click QuickCMA, which we'll do in a moment, but as I mentioned before, if you wanted to do just CMA or this version of Cloud CMA, this will give you several dozen pages of information. And for some people, it's way too much. For some people, it's right up their alley. I would do either of these, again, if you were presenting to a seller, because it does incorporate pictures, and it incorporates the specifics on every single comp that you have. It's kind of like an appraisal report. It's that detailed. But for this purpose, let's just do QuickCMA. All right, so if you printed this out, this would be one page. Okay, and what I like to do is, so it's broken out by active properties up here, and then the sold properties down here. So remember what I said before. The only data that we can really take action on are the sold properties. And thank goodness that we have a lot of them. Now, we had to go back a year, but we have a lot of them, right? So if you scroll down, it'll give you some great statistics. So it gives you the median, all right, which is the middle point, which means that half of these properties are above this data and half the properties are below. And then it tells you the lowest point, the highest point, and then the average. So this is actually a good example because the square footage is about the same, and you would expect it to be, it's all in the same subdivision. The price per square foot is right about the same as well. So these are really good comps. So the average price per square foot is about $118.75. The high is $126.46. The minimum is $103.51. And the average price is about $190.789. Okay, so the highest price, I'm just looking at this, $125.46. Okay, this sold almost a year ago as of the date of this recording, so just about 9-10 months ago. Okay, look at the cumulative days on market. So it is not really taking a whole lot of time to sell these properties, except for this kind of outlier here at 90 days. Even that's not really a big deal. All right, so based on what these homes are selling for, and just look at the average for a second, 190,789. You can look at the median at 196. Would you say the subject property is priced appropriately? I would say yes. I would say yes. And especially considering that we went back a full year to get all these properties. Okay, there's nothing sold this year, so it's March of 2020, and there's nothing that's sold in this year. We have to go back to last year to kind of get some true comps. The good news is that a lot of these sold in season. So July, May, April, all right, some in the fall. Okay, and then the other piece of information I look at if I were representing a buyer is what is the percentage of the sales price as a percentage of the list price. So in other words, if the list price was X, how much of that list price are they actually selling for? Okay, so this looks like to be a pretty hot market. So this is actually going for 104% of list, 101, 105. So that means above and beyond the list price, they're getting that much more. Okay, so what is that? What would that mean for your buyer if they were looking at 2310 Clearhaven? That would mean if I were representing them, I would advise them to go in at full price, at least. Okay, and this is below 200,000, so it's going to be snatched up pretty quick. Okay, this just came on the market today, by the way. All right, so why do I say that? Because every property except for 1, 2, 3 out of 9 went for above ask. Okay, so it'd be silly to think, so let's say your buyer says, well, let's offer 190, let's see what they say. Now, you have to submit the offer if they're kind of heels dug in. However, a good agent would would present this data to them and say, do you understand how pointless that is going to be? Okay, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste the seller's time. Nothing in this neighborhood has sold for less than asking price except for 3 in the past year. Okay, I really think that if you like this house, we need to go in at full price, or else it's going to be gone within 24 hours. I can almost guarantee it. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful to you. I went through the mechanics of how you come up with these numbers. Doing a CMA is part art, part science. I also tried to do a good job at helping you connect the dots in terms of how you interpret this data. Now, this exercise will not always be this easy. You may not find a whole lot of comps as compared to the subject property. If that's the case, you have to just kind of keep digging with regards to either how far out you're going to go geographically, or how far back you want to go with regards to the solds. We noticed that no expireds came up. Why did I click expireds? Well, because that is a home that was probably overpriced, and it fell off the market because that seller could not get what they listed it at. It's not always because of price, but it is usually because the home is overpriced. Okay, so hopefully you found this video helpful. Good luck out there, and if you have any questions, please see me.